Good morning, Ms. Howard. You may begin. Mhm.
Give me just 1 second. All right, now I am properly ready. Thank you guys. Good morning, everyone. I am Michelle Howard, Director for Small Business Programs Office, and I bring you greetings from our General Manager, Mr. Randy Clark, and our VP and Chief Procurement Officer, Ms. Fifi Ngosi. Welcome to WMATA Small Business Programs Office. This is our virtual educational presentation that helps you to support things in your business that you need proper information on. And I'm excited today, guys. I'm excited. I'm excited. We have Doug back with us. He is going to be doing a presentation on trademark and trade secret protection issues every small business should address. So I am so thrilled to have Doug back with us. This is also in collaboration with our partners at the DC Small Business Development Center. And let me tell you, when I say they are our partners, we have been partners for over 5 years now. And I'm really excited about this union with us because it has worked out for WMATA, for the small businesses, and the opportunities that take place. Always remember at WMATA, your participation is key, and we encourage all of our small businesses to get certified with WMATA. So please check out our website and learn more about the programs that we offer. We are definitely open for business, and we want you to be a part of our contracting opportunities. Remember, we are your metro, the way forward. Also, today, please put all questions in the chat and remember to fill out your surveys that will be sent to you after the presentation. These surveys help us to plan the programs and events that can benefit or support your business development and growth. So, again, I want you to enjoy your session. It is going to be awesome. I love when Doug is here. It's going to be awesome. But first, I want to bring on my friend, my partner for many, many years, Mr. Charles Mott from the DC Small Business Development Center at Howard University in Washington, D.C. He is currently the Associate Director there with both administrative and business counseling responsibilities. Charles has over 40 years in the defense and management consulting industry with large and small firms in management and team leader capacities. Of that, he has over 30 years of experience and knowledge in the small business management, leadership management, as well as business owner, employee, business counselor, and a consultant with small firms. He has a certificate in project management from the University of California in Berkeley. He also has an MBA in New Ventures and Small Business Management from Cal State. He is a certified project management professional with the Project Management Institute. I cannot say enough about my good friend, Charles. Thank you so much for being here.
Michelle, as always, it's a pleasure working with Metro and working with you. Michelle and I have known each other for a number of years through various organizations and have had a great rapport. And Metro's doing great things with small business. As Michelle said, I'm the associate director with the DC Small Business Development Center. For those of you who don't know, we are a grant-funded program. We're a SBA Small Business Administration resource partner. We're not the SBA, but are partially grant funded through them and through our host, Howard University. We provide a variety of services to small business, including counseling, assistance with access to capital. We also provide industry research, and we collaborate on webinars such as this, or we have our own set of webinars we do independently. We also partner on other programs with various partners that support the ecosystem in DC. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing our speaker, Doug Lineberry. He is a dynamic gentleman. You're in for a great treat today. I'm going to read um, a short portion of his bio. Um, Whether he's assisting clients with the protection of intellectual property through patent, trademark, and copyright prosecution or intellectual property litigation, Doug focuses on building relationships based on trust and constant communication. He successfully prosecutes patent applications for mechanical, medical, and chemical technologies. Doug helps clients with establishing and protecting trademark portfolios, guarding against improper third-party use, and conducting enforcement actions. He advises clients on all matters involving intellectual property, trade secrets, branding, marketing issues, and contractual and other business matters. He has a long bio. You can read it on the where you signed up for this webinar. But Doug is a dynamic speaker. He has some great things to share with you today. And by the way, he has a relationship with the SBDC that goes beyond just what he's doing with us and with Metro. He also is on the board for the South Carolina SBDC. Doug and I have had many conversations, as I may have mentioned in our last webinar that we did. Doug and I have probably spent more time talking about what our enjoyment is outside of our jobs, more than getting webinars set up. But without further ado, I want to bring him on so he can share some great information, and you're in for a treat today. So Doug, it is your show, my friend.
Thank you, Charles, and thank you, Michelle. That's too kind. I can't believe you guys sell this to these people. Y'all, we have an awesome attendance today. We've got 38 folks on. So I'm going to ask a favor of everybody here. Ask me questions. You're not going to be bothering me. I want everybody here to be very comfortable with asking any question you've got. The only dumb questions, the ones we don't ask. Now, today, we're going to be going through two very critical things for a small business. And I'm going to start out by asking you guys a question early on. Of our 38 folks here presenting today, who has a trade secret? Now, don't tell me what it is. Just tell me if any of our companies on here today, we've got some, let's say we've got 30, 35 companies on here because we do have some of the proctors on with us. But who here has a trade secret for their business? I'm going to stop and just let people answer. And don't tell me what it is. Just say, I do. Awesome. So Roland Reed, thank you, my friend. Roland said, I've got one. And I love that, Roland, because typically when I ask that question, everybody says no. Like, oh, I'm a small business. I'm a trade secret. I'm a small business. Why would I have one? Why would I need one? Now, Roland, do not tell me what your trade secret is, but kind of describe it in like 100,000-foot detail. What do you consider to be your trade secret? Oh, and Diane Harrison's got one too. Thank you, Diane. And so, and it looks like we've got new people joining us, so we'll let them in too. But guys, as we move through this today, I can't get off. Roland, I feel you, my friend. He says, I can't get off mute. It's going to be Tuesday all day, so no worries. But, as we're going through, oh, and Dr. Holton has one as well. I love this, guys. And so I already love the energy I'm getting from y'all. Patrick Chan says he has one. He says, we've got something that we do or an approach, and that's exactly it. Now L&L Beauty Co. asks a beautiful question to start off. She says, I'm trying to decide if my curriculum would classify as a trade secret. L&L, that is a beautiful question. And the reason it's so good is it bags a lot. And I love this. Y'all are so awesome. So many people are like, we've got one. And I love that because that helps us establish a great rapport for today. Because I want y'all to know every business here has one. Even though you might not have told me that, Mandira, thank you. But what we want is for everybody to understand you've got them already. They already exist for you. And as we go through this today, I want you guys to be very comfortable with me, very comfortable with asking any and all questions. And so I'm going to share screen with you guys and we'll start going through the presentation. But as we do it, kind of think back on this because our answers today are really good. Look at Patrick saying, hey, it's the way that we do something. L&L's like, hey, I think it might be my curricula. We're going to talk about these. And what we want to do is make certain that you guys are comfortable with this understanding, because when you look at trade marks and you look at trade secrets, they're almost polar opposites of each other. And y'all, I'll make the presentation big. You guys should be able to see my screen now for the presentation. And if you can't, just let me know and we'll fix it. But what we're going to do is to go through our slides. And meanwhile, I'm still looking at the chat. Roland says, we have an approach that complements work, large entities, work initiatives. I love that. That's a good general description of it, because what I don't want anybody to do today is like, I have a secret recipe and my recipe is XYZ. Not wanting that. And we don't want that ever, guys, because when we think about what our small businesses should know, what we need to know about trademarks and trade secrets is that they are different creatures and they work together. Believe it or not, you've got one that's loud and proud, kind of like me. I'm a trademark. I'm out there, I'm talking, I'm coaxing you guys into asking questions, and I'm going to play with you and tease you all day in this presentation because that's what we're going to do. But we need to understand how these two differ from each other. And to do that, I want you to understand why it matters. Because, with y'all's business, think of a trademark as being your reputation. Think of a trademark as being why somebody driving down the interstate sees your billboard and is like, I know that company. I like what they do. And even if you're just starting off as a small company, this is going to happen. You're going to get out there. People are going to recognize you. And that is your trademark. That's how people see you going down the street. Like, obviously, we've got snow everywhere. It's winter. We'll be out of it soon. That little groundhog betrayed us and said 6 more weeks, but there we go. But once we're back on non-icy streets and you're driving down the road, you're going to see these trademarks, guys, and they're all over the place. You're going to see McDonald's, you're going to see Arby's, you're going to see Nike, you're going to see AT&T, you're going to see Verizon. These are all trademarks, and those trademarks are loud and proud. Now, something about trademarks is, though, we have to be careful how we use them. We want to make certain that when we're filing for a trademark, that we have done a clearance on it, that we have made sure that it is clear. Now, one thing, guys, I'll offer to do today for y'all, and we'll do it here in a little bit, but I'm happy to show y'all how to search a trademark. And this is just kind of a down and dirty, it's me showing y'all a simple way to do this. But when we talk about our mouthpieces, when we talk about our trademarks, we want to make certain that they are okay to use, because we don't want a situation where, let's say, Diane comes up with a mark and says, hey, my mark is Star, and I'm going to use it to sell milk. And so she goes out, sets up her Star Milk Company, and we get a cease and desist letter. And let's say that it's from Patrick. Patrick says, hey, I've been using Star Milk brands for 30 years. You can't be Star. So what we want to do early on is to make certain that our mouthpieces are protected and can actually vocalize for us. Now, trade secrets. And notice, everybody, we had such a great turnout here of everybody saying, look, we've got trade secrets. And y'all, honest to goodness, y'all are the first presentation I've given to that people have been brave enough to say we've got them. And I love that. Continue this all the way throughout, because knowing that you've got those trade secrets is a crucial step. Now, when we talk about it, Patrick said we've got ways of doing things. Ellen says is maybe my criteria can be a lot of different things. It can be the way that you've organized your processes. It can be your pricing. Maybe you've got vendors who you've known forever and give you really good deals. Are you going to tell that to a competitor? You're not, because the competitor might try to swoop in and usurp that deal, and we don't want that to happen. All of us are familiar with like Coca-Cola. We know the Coke recipes out there. We know that like KFC's herbs and spices, they're out there. We've all eaten them and loved them. They're great, but we don't know what they are. Now, what's funny, I saw in the news last week, there was a company that said, hey, I've got it. I have figured out the Coca-Cola secret recipe. And it was so funny. I can't remember if it was on Reddit, but everybody jumped in really quick and we're going over the ingredients the guy used. And they looked at the Coca-Cola label and like, well, you don't have it because Coke uses X and you don't have an X in your recipe. So you might think you're close, but you're not there. But understand that is Coke's best kept secret. And the way it works at Coca-Cola is only 2 folks have access to it at a time. So 2 individuals in the entirety of Coke can access the trade secret. There was a situation a few years back, and this has been a bit, called 10, 15 years. There was an administrative assistant who worked for Coke. She somehow got physical access to the recipe and then went to a Pepsi for a job. Now, most people think, hey, Pepsi grabbed that and they knew the Coke recipe. Quite the contrary. Pepsi had this lady in their lobby and like, so you've got the Coke recipe, and she's kind of like holding it in an envelope. You sense this whole, sort of James Bond-esque situation where she's like, I've got the recipe. So they're like, wait just 1 minute. So they go back in and call Coke. And they're like, you will not believe what's going on in our lobby right now. And so Coke took action immediately. And you may ask yourself, why would Pepsi do that? It's like their greatest competitors' trade secrets being handed to them, literally in an envelope to be taken. The reason you don't do it, y'all, is that there's some things that are worth fighting for. And Coca-Cola will die on the hill of protecting their trademark. Pepsi knows this. And that is a huge thing for you guys to realize, is that y'all as a small business have the exact same importance as Coca-Cola or Pepsi. And I want all of you to get it. So y'all, we're up to 45 people, and this is awesome. And I'm still watching the chat, but I want all of our newcomers. My name's Doug Lineberry. I am harmless. I don't bite. But I do want you guys to feel very free today to ask me questions. And it can be about other forms of IP. It can be about how a business uses these, whatever you're comfortable with. I will caution everybody that if you do, hey, Lucia, good to meet you. And I am looking at the chat. I'm easily distracted, so I'm perfect for this. As soon as they pop up, I stare. But you guys feel free to ask me questions. All you're doing is helping us. I promise your questions will take us further down the presentation. But now the reason we have these trademarks, and there are mouthpieces, and the reason we have these trade secrets, and there are backroom power, think of it that way. We've got a mouthpiece, that's our trademark. It's out there. It's like our kids selling newspapers back in classic England or back in New York, 5 o'clock news, must have it. That's your trademark. Our trade secrets are your little mad scientist in the back who keeps developing things for you, and you get money out of it. You make efficiencies out of it, things that your competitors don't know that help you make a profit. And the reason we use these is for collaboration, because guess what? Let's say that Gemma, your company gets huge, and you are Rock Lobster, and you're a rock band. And so you're bigger than Elvis. And you're like, you know what? So I'm kind of tired of this whole rock and roll thing. I think I'm going to let other people take it over. You can license that trademark. You can license your presence to other people. That will work for like the Star Milk we talked about. It'll work for any trademark y'all have got. You can license it. Indeed, you can use it as collateral at the bank. You can go into a client, let's say Michelle. Michelle has a company to where she makes uranium pellets for nuclear reactors, and she's got a trademark for it. And she's like, hey, I need some front end capital up here. We're getting ready to bring in a new conveyor belt. We're getting ready to re-up the system, going to make even better nuclear pellets. And she can go to the bank and leverage her trademark as collateral. You'll notice this happens a lot with bigger entities. Small ones can do it too. Don't think a bank's going to laugh at you if you come in with a trademark as collateral. They understand that it's a real property. It's just like these iPhones and Androids that we all carry around. It's real property. It's considered to be a valuable asset, and it is a valuable asset. Now, for us today, though, let's keep going through our presentation. And first, we'll talk about understanding our trademarks. What are they? They're a distinctive sign or symbol. They can be other things too. Here's a question for you guys. What are other types of trademarks besides a sign or a symbol? Like beside words or like the Nike swoosh, what else could be a trademark? And I'll just ask you guys to give me a couple guesses. What else can function as a trademark? Oh, a slogan, absolutely, Sean. Taglines, absolutely, Diane. These are great. Absolutely. Patrick Chan says my logo. Yes, it can. Now, the one thing, sounds, phrases, and logos. Look at Megan Miller off the top row. Awesome, my dear. Sound like Netflix. Tanya, I love this. Tana and Megan there. There's also another sound. So our streets are currently icy right now, but the next time a Harley pulls up to you and starts revving that engine, none of us here. None of us here. It can't be Alex, can't be Helen, can't be Michelle, can't be Marlo, can't be Charles, can't be Doug. None of us can make a motorcycle that sounds like a Harley. None of us can make the Netflix noise. None of us can make sounds that are trademarked by other companies. Laquana's question. Hi, Doug. If a trademark exists with the same name but different purpose, can you still be successful in trademarking with a logo? Awesome question. I love this, Laquan. Great question. So Laquan says, hey, we've got two trademarks that might be identical, might be very similar, but they can coexist, Laquan. And let's say that you are a doctor. And so you have a trademark on a medical practice. And let's say that Helen is an air conditioner specialist and y'all can share the same trademark. They absolutely can coexist because, Laquan's in a medical practice. Helen sells air conditioners. Those two don't meet much unless it's some horrible accident. But in the business lines, they're considered to have separate streams of commerce. So you can have marks that are similar but do different things. Now, where you get in trouble is, let's say that Kwan's mark is Better Health. That's her name. And so it's called Better Health. And then Helen says, you know what? I want to set up a psychiatry event called Better Health. That's going to be a problem because even though Laquan does like physical medicine, she heals boo-boos, fixes breaks, comes in and fixes ribs. And Helen says, hey, I'm going to help your mental health. I'm working on the brain from the inside out. Those are too similar. Even though they're different types of medical care, you can't have those trademarks coexist. So Laquan, that is an awesome question. And if you are looking at having a similar trademark to somebody else, remember a few things. Some entities are very aggressive about protecting trademarks to the point of they're almost hostile. And so I want you guys to realize, hey, if I'm too close to somebody, even if we're different things, if they're hostile, they may come back out and fight you for it. And so that's just a given. That's like trying to judge human nature. You can't do it. They wake up, it's a Monday, they're in a bad mood. They see your trademark and they're just, here they go. Another question from Sean. Sean says, if you file your business from state to state, how can you know if someone else has your name 50 states wide? All right, that is a great question, Sean. So what I want to tell you guys to do is file a federal trademark. And remember, I'm a South Khaki attorney. You folks are from, I'm assuming, the DC metro area, Virginia, Maryland, anywhere close. Heck, we may have people from Hawaii here. But what we want is a federal trademark application. And the reason we do that is so Sean doesn't have to worry about, am I protected in all these states? You are with that federal. You're given the right to expand. And so if you go, let's say, Sean, you started in Virginia and you're going to move to North Carolina, and there was somebody who started using the mark, and here's kind of where you get a huge bang for your buck. If they're younger than you, if they're a junior mark, you just nix them. Kind of like the X's on the eyes of the old day Cowboys, man. You're done. Game over. Ghost floats up to heaven. If they're older than you, they may stay around, but we do what's called a fishbowl. We had a really good South Carolina case on this involving a Hilton hotel. As you guys know, there's the big, massive chain Hilton. And if you guys have ever been to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, there's this little circular, wild-looking hotel. It looks like a column with a round top on top of it, kind of like a T made in a column. And so that hotel existed. It was a Hilton. The big Hilton moves into South Carolina and says, hey, little Hilton, you can't be Hilton anymore. And they're like, well, I've been Hilton for a long, long time, a lot longer than you. So the judges decided with the South Carolina Hilton, it could continue using its mark. It was older, but here's the problem. The big nationwide Hilton got a federal trademark. And so it was now able to put the little Hilton in Myrtle Beach inside a fishbowl. And this fishbowl, no pun, included half of the Atlantic Ocean. Fish don't really rent rooms that much. So I want you guys to be very careful of this. Don't think, hey, I'm going to file a bunch of state trademarks, file a federal trademark. And then that gives you the ability to expand elsewhere. We've had some other questions pop up, guys. So let me jump over to those. Okay, that was Sean's question. Oh, awesome. Laquan says, hey, do trademarks matter if they're a for-profit or nonprofit? Not at all, Laquan. They are treated exactly the same. I do both. I have clients that are for-profits. I have nonprofits. I help them both. And because think of this, it's your loudspeaker, it's your heller, because if you're out there doing nonprofit work and you're helping people or kids or animals or just society in general, you still want your trademark out there and you want it protected because you don't want somebody else, even though they might mean well, to try to usurp your mark. Or worse yet, somebody who's a bit of a clunkhead takes your mark and goes out and starts doing silly things with it, or they get in trouble. Because that's one thing that trademarks require us to do is to enforce the trademark. If we see a third party out there, we want to make certain that we're not kosher with them using it, unless it's a licensee, someone that you've given permission to do it. If you see someone using a similar mark to you, and granted, we talked about our example of, hey, I'm a medical doctor and this person does air conditioners, there's a limit to how far you can go. But if you're a medical doctor and there's a vet doing it, that's going to be a problem because, A, you don't want people getting confused. Is this the vet or is this the doctor? And what if the vet does something silly and hurts somebody's pet? People get emotional about pets, and you don't want them associating that loudspeaker trademark for the vet with your business. Same in the medical industry. If you had two competing hospitals with similar trademarks, one of them's a good hospital, one of them's a bad hospital, we absolutely do not want that coexistence. We have to step in and put a halt to that as quick as we can. And it's called trademark enforcement. When a client comes to me and says, hey, Doug, I've got somebody and I've sent out cease and desist letters this week. And it's because we have someone who's too close to my client's mark. And you might discover them on the internet. You might discover them just via social media. You might have a neighbor tell you, hey, you won't believe what I saw at the mall with a sign up. So there are all kinds of ways that we can find these marks. And but profit, non-profit, same thing, Laquan. Mandira has a question. Is there an international trademark to protect one in other countries if one has a retail product? There is, Mandira. We can do a couple different things. We can use a particular protocol called the Madrid Protocol to file a trademark and then go into separate countries. There's no huge, big international. You file it and you get it all done. But there are ways to use Madrid to go into different countries, or you can go to them directly. Let's say that you're a business that is big in the US and Canada and Mexico. Do you need a European trademark? Not really. Do you need a Japanese one? No, not so much. So you may just go into Canada and Mexico directly, but there are absolutely ways to do it. Now, the funny thing about it is, though, if you don't file in those countries to protect them, what's that mean? Well, it means nobody can come to the US. You're still protected in the biggest market ever, having your US mark. But if you're going to be selling in foreign markets, absolutely protect your marks in it. Now, I'm not saying go file in 1,000 countries. I don't think there are 1,000, but don't go file in all of them. Be very conscientious about this. Be very physically conscious to say, okay, where are my money centers? Where are my clients? Where am I producing, and where maybe are my competitors? So I kind of want to put fences in these places where I don't want them to get too close to my trademark. So that is an awesome question. Can you trade? This is a good one from Laquan again. Laquan says, can you trademark a corporate name? Yes, you can. And it's the same rules as everybody else because we're going to do a trademark search. Now might be an awesome time to do that, guys. I'm going to stop sharing the presentation. And y'all, I cannot believe the one thing that gets me about presentations is they put the share button right beside the end event button. And I'm like, that's just chaos waiting to happen. So I moved my mouse very carefully up here to the share button. I'm getting ready to do it again. But what I want y'all to see here is that we are going to do a real quick trademark search. I'm going to use Laquan as our way to do it. So Laquan said, hey, is there a way to protect a corporate name? There absolutely is. And so, guys, bear with me, and I'm carefully going up to that share button because I don't want to do anything silly. You guys should be looking at a great big old screen of mine that has the trademark website on it. It's kind of a bluish stripe at the top with a gray band or white band. Hopefully you guys can see this. And what we're going to do is a search because Laquan said, hey, can we protect a corporate name? We're going to make one up right now. Corporate name is going to be Hamburger Heaven. And that is the name of our corporate name for our hamburger franchise, Hamburger Heaven. And so what we're going to do, we're doing what's called a knockout search. This is called an identical search. Does this exist? And I have no idea. I haven't pre-gamed this. So let's check and see what happens when we put in to ask, hey, does Hamburger Heaven exist? Oh my gosh. So there used to be Hamburger Heavens out there for restaurant services. Now, what this means is very interesting. When you see all these marks that are red, understand they're dead. Now, does that mean we have zombie trademarks, which would be awesome? We don't, sadly. We're not in a horror movie. But it means somebody did not pay a fee, somebody missed a response to an office action, or somebody forgot to renew their marks. And so what happens a lot with marks, guys, like, we're opening up our chain of Hamburger Heaven. When we look at this, we see, hey, there were some Hamburger Heavens out there at one point. You'll notice there was a Hamburger Heaven Inc. And so Laquan, guess what? Hamburger Heaven Inc. filed a trademark on their name. Looks like they did it a couple times actually. It's like there's a heaven here and a heaven here. Looks like a George Dythorn tried to do it at one point. Looks like South County Associates tried to do it at one point. So we've had various folks try to get that corporate name protected. So y'all, we've had other questions pop up. I'm going to go to those. Do, 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 do. So Kia says, hey, Doug, is a trademark attorney necessary? Can one obtain a trademark on their own? Which do you prefer? All right, now, Kia, this is an attorney saying use an attorney. So I get how funny that sounds. But the reason I say it is this. Like, one of the things I saw on my ads this morning was a place that said, hey, we're Legal Chuck or whatever it was, and we're going to get you a trademark in 15 minutes. Y'all, I've been doing these a long time. This gray hair is not just due to my twins. And 15 minutes is a rocket speed to get a trademark filed. 15 minutes is so fast that you're probably doing something wrong. And I work with the SBDC all the time. Like Charles and these guys in DC love them. I work with South Khaki. I'm starting to work with the Georgia SBDCs. And one thing that I've noticed is people, especially small businesses, are like, hey, I'm afraid to talk to an attorney. You know, these guys are expensive. It's going to be a lot of money. I'll tell you this. It's kind of like today in the questions. If you don't ask, you'll never know. Because guess what? I give small business discounts. I love small businesses. You know, even though I'm at a large firm, the vast majority of my clients are small businesses. And you know why? Because you guys are fun. And because you've got people like Melissa and Charles who are helping y'all with the small business. And I hope to be included as part of that group too. But when I tell you use an attorney, I mean it. And here's why, Kia. Because you can file it. You can go to LegalZoom, you can go to a Corporate Shield, wherever, and file it. Here's what's going to happen. You know, we did our search for Hamburger Heaven. Now, what we want to do is say, hey, have I got it all covered? Because we saw direct matches. These are all identical hits that have Hamburger Heaven somewhere in them. But you want to go broader than that. What you want to do is to go in and say, hey, you know, what if it's Hamburglary? Or what if it's like Heavenly? You know, we're not going to see those pop up. And so that's something that really gets folks is to say, hey, you know, it's not just, is your mark out there? It's, are there close things? Because unfortunately, trademarks are like hand grenades and horseshoes. Close counts. It's called confusingly similar. And the reason, Kia, that you use an attorney is, I hate filing trademarks that get 2D rejections. I just don't like it. But what I try to do on the front end is we search. And notice now, I've put it in and we're still getting back up Hamburger Heaven. But look what we also pulled up. The Heavenly Hamburger. And while Hamburger Heaven is a different mark, if we filed and this was a living mark, there's a good chance we get a rejection on it. And so that's why we do these broader searches. And there are other searches we can do too. If you came to me and said, hey, I'm Hamburger Heaven and I sell fish, guess what? You know, now we've got a disparity between the marks that adds some strength to it, but it's also a restaurant. So we'd want to be careful of these others. But absolutely, Kia, find an attorney. You know, the reason you do that is twofold. You can call and ask me questions. And y'all, as soon as you file in the trademark office, you're going to be preyed upon by Russians and Chinese and scammers from all over the planet. And y'all, their stuff looks legit. It looks really good because they'll come out to you and they'll say, hey, Kia, you filed a trademark and now you owe us $1,500 to get on this registry. Y'all, if you file it yourself, you have no idea if these are legit, if they're right, if they're wrong. Use a firm. If it doesn't come from me and Maynard Nexon or my lovely paralegal Caitlin, you'll know there's something funky going on. And then you can call me or email me. You know, you try that with Legal Shield or Corporate Shield in these places, you're not going to get a response. You know, you're dealing with somebody who may change 15 different times. You also notice they hit you with a subscription fee. One thing I like to do for small businesses is a flat fee. You know what it's going to cost. That's the price, period. If we file multiple marks, guess what? We'll build in a volume discount and they'll have a flat fee on it. So I want you guys to understand you've got a lot of options. You know, sometimes small businesses think I'm a small business and nobody loves me. That's absolutely not the case. There are plenty of places that love you. Hey, Melissa and Charles are here and they love you. You know, you've got two great organizations in the Metro DC area that love you and help you out. And you've got a good old boy in South Carolina who loves you and wants to help you out. That's why we're educating today, but we're also doing some of these so that y'all can see. We've got more questions, guys. Oh, thank you, Kia, for the thumbs up. Tay Davis, if a company changes directions and no longer wants to use a trademark, is there a way to suspend it? And would that open up other companies to use it? For example, Southwest no longer has the free bag policy, but they trademark bags fly free. Could Southwest suspend in that trademark? And if so, could another airline pick it up? That is a great question, Tay. The reason it's so good is trademarks require use. There are a few situations where it's excusable not to use them. But if Southwest says, "Nope, I'm charging for bags. Bags fly free is no longer our trademark, tough stuff, Buttercup," that's going to go abandoned because they're not going to pay it up. Now, they can do it intentionally. They can follow something right now and it goes abandoned. Like click, click, February 3rd, mark abandoned, bags fly free is dead meat. Others could jump in and take it at that point once it's abandoned. Now, they may let it just expire. And what expiration means is if this is a registered trademark, let's check it out. We're going to look for the trademark bags fly free to see if they actually registered federally. Boom, bags fly free from Southwest. Awesome call, Tay. Love that. You'll notice they had some other versions of this too. Looks like they had a bags fly free for transportation services, etc. But it's still out there and existing. But here's what I mean by they can just let it expire. Y'all, trademarks are living creatures. They're just like a Pokemon, and in the sense of you can't actually pick one up, hold it, and kiss it, but it's real. And so what I want y'all to see is that this real mark is good until February 12th, 2032. So right now we're in 26. This mark is good. Excuse me, y'all. This mark is good until February 2032. So Southwest could do nothing with it. Now, if they stop using it, though, an airline that says, "Hey, I've got bags fly free," they could try to attack it for non-use and try to cancel this registration. Once registrations get up there, and especially in age, that's one reason we file our trademarks, guys. Let me back up for a second. After the 5th year, you can file what's called a Section 8 and 15, and that makes your mark incontestable. And the reason we want something to be incontestable is you can't have an ownership dispute. You went through the federal process. You registered your mark. You've now renewed it at the 5th year. You've got the ability to be 10 foot tall and bulletproof compared to third parties. And when we've taken Tay's example of if you stop using a mark, then you've got people who may try to attack it for non-use, but they can't attack it to say it's my mark, it's Southwest's mark, but they may no longer be using it. So then you can attack it to say, "Hey, they're not using it. I want to use it. I'm going to keep it." So Tay, great example. That is awesome. If they do abandon it or if they fail to use it, then yes, third parties can move in. Bose lost the Soundwave mark many moons ago, call it 17, 18 years ago, due to that very thing. Competitors wanted that mark. Bose had a registration for it, and the competitor sued saying, "Hey, you're not using it. You may have renewed the applications and stuff, but you're not using it," and ended up being successful on that. Jumping down to Diane says, if you are a multiple product company, do you have to register that trademark for each class that the products fall under? And if so, is there a streamlined process for that registration process for each product in different classes? Also, can the same trademark be used for both products and services under the same business industry? Oh man, y'all's questions today are awesome. And Diane, this is a great one. So we'll address it in parts. Oh, awesome. Mandera, I see your question. We have to, Mandera's questions about what does this mean, Doug, when you're sitting there typing in CM and your searches up here. And so what CM is I'm saying, show me the code. And guys, to search these marks now, it's almost like amateur computer programming. This changed like 4 or 5 years ago and drove us trademark attorneys insane. But unfortunately, it is now like computer programming. And you can add what this is a prefix, and CM means this is the mark I'm looking for. I put it in quotes because I want the identical mark bags fly free, where we're trying to find the one that Ty referenced. What the open-enders do here, and this is where an asterisk comes into play, it'll bring up like handbag, or it'll bring up bagged. So watch this. I'll just do this for bag to see what pops up. And notice it's a ridiculous number of hits. It's like 18,000 hits nearly, but it brought up hero bag, pack your bags, the cleaner bag, bag master. And so these asterisks open-ended, and those are searches that your trademark attorney should do with your marks to make certain that there are no similar marks that are going to cause a problem with you. And so, y'all, your questions are beautiful. Now I'm going back to Diane's. Diane says, "Hey, is there a way to streamline this process across multiple classes?" There absolutely is. So Diane, let's say that you are a manufacturer and you just opened up and you make clothes, you make leather handbags, you make trying to think of something else to go in there. You make clothes, you make leather handbags, you make jewelry, and you also make like cell phones, like small electronic devices. those would be 4 separate classes. And what we would do is we would do a search in each of those classes. Because remember, guys, when we saw bags fly free, that was for our situation of, hey, we're looking for bags fly free. And just like Hamburger Heaven, we're just looking for Hamburger Heaven. But when you're doing it in these different classes, you do want to make certain that if you see other marks that come up, you've got to go check and say, hey, well, I was looking for Hamburger Heaven for restaurants. Oh, lo and behold, here's a Hamburger Heaven that's green. Because remember, our marks do come in 2 flavors. We got living and dead. And I'll show you all a neat way to get rid of all the dead ones. And you'll appreciate this, Amanda. Here's some more programming. LD means live dead. True, which makes no sense, means just put up the live ones. You'll notice we went down from nearly 18,000 hits to about 5,000 hits. Still outlandish to go through. But notice again, because we had the expanders on bag, we've got a Cali bag and a bag Danton brought up in the same search. And below it, we see these different classes they're in. And that harkens back to Diane's question is, hey, if I've got multiple products under this mark, do I have to do all these different filings? You don't. We can do them all at one time. Now, I'll warn you this, though. The PTO is a fee-driven organization, meaning that for each of these classes, you're going to pay a government fee for it. The current fee is $350. And so if you've got 4 classes of goods, that's 4 times 350, which on a Tuesday with bad math rolls out to be, y'all making me do math. I thought I liked y'all, $1,400. And that's not an attorney's fee. That is just the fee for paying the government of, I want to have this class for this mark. And so I tell clients this, if you're using them in 4 classes and they're making you money, absolutely file in them. But let's say you're just a clothing store right now and you think you might expand later, file for clothing now. You can file for these other marks later on if business goes that way. Because if you're overzealous about this, a main thing for small business is, hey, finance. We want to keep it nimble. We want to stay financially smart. We want to do this the right way. Now, if you're telling me I want to file in 15 classes, I want to do the math for you. Like 15 times 350 is a buttload of money. And I need you guys to be very cognizant of that. That boatload of money is a ridiculous amount. And so you're looking at filing fees of in excess of $10,000 and a lot more change. And so you want the attorney to tell you this instead of sending you the bill going, hey, you said register in 15 classes. Now you owe us $350 times 15 plus my fee. So don't let that happen. Be nimble about this. Be focused on it. If you're a clothing business, you're not going to file for air conditioners. Now, if you go into the air conditioning business too, hoopla, let's go in and we'll protect it. But that's not something that's probably going to happen organically right at the beginning of your business. Now back to Diane's second part. She says, also, can the same trademarks be used for both products and services under the same business industry? Absolutely. Let's say we go back to one of our examples of Heaven Burger. We've got a Heaven Burger out there, and guess what? We can have restaurant services, but we've also got a ham sandwich with hamburger patty on it. And I'm just making up weird food, but we'll have a ham sandwich with a hamburger patty on it. We call that the Heaven Burger. So it can both be the franchise, the restaurant that's Heaven Burger, and it can be the product, Heaven Burger. You can see various uses of this out there. You'll see a company and they may have their product is going to be the name of the company for that initial product. So you absolutely can have it be a service, i.e. being in business, providing a restaurant service, and the name of the burger too. That's completely kosher to do that, Diane. Okay, I got unknown user. Now, unknown, I will ask you a quick favor that benefits Melissa and Charles. If you could put your name in here, because part of the SBA, part of the Metro's job is to help you guys and to show who attended the events. So if you'd be kind enough to change unknown user to your name, or at least make up something that looks like a human name, that would be a big benefit to them, because we need to be able to show, hey, how many people are on here? Like, we're in the 40s today, y'all, and that's fantastic. Now, I've not gotten questions from a lot of y'all, so I'm saying, hey, boards are open, floors open, ask away. But if you guys are using something like an unknown user, please do change that to a name so that A, you can get on the mailing lists, you can understand a better relationship and understand, hey, these folks are here to help you. And you're putting in a name helps them get better funding, helps them to show the outreach they've got, helps all of us in turn. Now, unknown says, an attorney advised us, and you got to love it when it starts out these ways, that to protect our trade secret would require tens of thousands of dollars. And to your point, they take a long, wow. All right, unknown user, I'm telling you right now, I block the calls of this attorney. Just stop it. No more calls from this attorney. I will read this out loud for you. An attorney advised us, and that's unknown user and their business, that to protect our trade secret would require tens of thousands of dollars. And to your point, they take a long time to obtain. Is that true? Unknown, that could not be more untrue, because let's talk about our trade secrets for a little bit. What our trade secrets are, and y'all will stop sharing the screen, and I'm slowly going to stop sharing, and I'm slowly going back to share because I'm freaked out by those buttons being so close together. But what we're going to do is go back, because I love, unknown, that you're using this example for us. And really what this means, guys, is like, hey, what have we done? Because we've talked about trademarks as being our core piece. We've talked about trademarks as being our town crier. They're out there saying, hey, this is awesome. What a great company this is. What a great product this is. Let's go and check out our trade secrets. And we'll bounce back and forth on this, guys, because y'all's points are awesome and your questions are great. And so let's go look at what our trade secrets are, because unknown was told, hey, it's going to cost a butt ton of money, tens of thousands of dollars. Y'all, that's an utter lie. And in Latin, that means liar, liar, pants on fire, because trade secrets are one of the types of IP that don't cost anything. You don't file for them. You don't register them. That's actually anti what you would do for a trade secret. You keep them, and again, you go, that's a trade secret. Because unlike unknown's attorney who's saying it's going to take all this money and it's going to cost you all this time, if your trade secrets are out there, like earlier on, we had a great group of folks say, hey, I've got a trade secret. It's existing right now. What they need to do to protect it is just make certain third parties or associates and employees who don't need access to it don't get access. Early on, we talked about Coke. Only 2 people had access. Sure, that secretary got a hold of it, but Pepsi knew enough to be like, I am not tapping on that landmine with a toe. And so let's go back and look at our trade secrets here. And that, y'all, they can be so many things. Like, Mr. Chan brought up, they can be processes, they can be algorithms, it can be data that your competitors don't have. How do we make this so fast? How do we get great pricing? Where's my market going to expand? All of those are trade secrets. Now, our AI, AI is everywhere. It is part of the universe. It's going to be part of the universe. Our grandkids will have AI. Their grandkids will have AI. So what we want to understand is there's a lot of AI that implicates us too. And I want y'all to be very cautious. All of you with the trade secret, I never, ever, ever, never. And notice I slowed down. I talk fast. I'm going slow now. I never want anybody on this program to ever put a trade secret and defining it into an AI unless it is your personal AI that's not leaving your computer. Because if you use a public chat GPT or public Claude or whatever system you may use, and you put your trade secret into it, let's say it's a chocolate chip cookie recipe. If you put it into an AI and it's not a contained AI and it can just go off, you've now given up your trade secret. You've made it publicly available. So I don't want y'all doing this. I don't want y'all falling for that mistake. But I do want you to know that there are things that protect it, but you don't file anything. So unknown, no, there is no filing fees. There is no document we file. We keep it a secret. We keep the chocolate chip recipe locked in a vault. We don't let all the bakers know it. Some of them build this portion, some of them build that portion, and others build another portion. We combine them when nobody's around. I've got a client that makes gummy bears, but they're used for like protein. And so I probably shouldn't call them gummy bears, but they're gummies. And so there's a special way they prepare them. And part of that preparation, if you do it wrong, will not allow the proteins to interact with the person. You're just chewing a gummy bear. You get no benefit from it. And notice, I'm not telling you what part of it was. I'm not telling you how it functions. I'm not telling you anything about it. That's maintaining that trade secret. Because I want y'all to understand, all of you here have your trade secrets. Every single company on this line today has a trade secret, at least one, probably multiple. I don't want you explaining them to AI. I don't want you explaining them to the third parties. I don't want you letting employees who don't have any business knowing it have access to it. Just don't do it. But the importance of the secrecy, guys, it's critical, because once you put it out there, Lord forbid, you present a white paper, you show up, oh gosh, Charles, they show up on the campus and they present. They are at a presentation. It's like an inventors forum, an entrepreneurs group, and they present the trade secret. You're done, guys. You've put it out there in business, and now you can no longer claim it's a trade secret. but you do have particular EU or data trade secret statutes that will help you protect it if a bad guy or gal tries to touch your stuff, tries to get your trade secret. So there are absolutely ways that we can protect it. But back to Unknown's point, they don't cost money and they don't take a lot of time. Your trademarks are yours right now. And you don't have to spend a dime to protect them. Now, do you have to pay for a lock on the door? Sure. Did you buy a computer and it's got a password on it? Sure. There's some ancillary costs, but there is no, hey, to protect a trademark, pay somebody this. No way. Now, going back to our questions, guys. Let's see here. Okay, we answered Mandira's what's CM in a search. Sean has another one. I'm going to use a weird example. Sean, we love weird examples. That's why we're here today. There is a business in California that made the word tendernism and popular environment. A company in South Carolina, I think, filed the trademark first. Even though they did not coin the phrase, how can we protect our businesses in these types of situations? Do we need to prove we are the originator, or is it simply right? Oh gosh, Sean, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Sean's last sentence is it simply a race to file first? And it is filing first, guys. First to the trademark office wins the federal battle. Now, we talked about, hey, we had our little Hilton here, the little column-shaped hotel with sort of the column on top of it. They were out there. They did not file federally. Single hotel, didn't feel a need. Here comes the big Hilton. And at the end of the day, little Hilton's trapped. They're encompassed by the big Hilton. They can't go to North Carolina. They can't go to Georgia. Heck, they can't go to other places in South Carolina because they were limited to a certain radius of where their customers came from. And so, guys, we got to be very careful on that. But, Sean, you are dead on. It is first to file. Now, I'm not saying file a prototype trademark. I want you to know what your mark is. But I also want you to know, hey, don't dally. Once you've got that, pull the trigger, get this thing filed. Contact me, contact Charles, contact Melissa, contact somebody and say, hey, I need to get a trademark on file. I'm ready. What's next? Because you don't want to go hanging out there thinking, I'll do it. Because y'all, I've got these lists of to-dos on my desk right now. And I've got a third list that's creating. You're writing them down so you don't forget them. But if you go to these others and your trademark filing's last on that list, that's not filing it first. And if somebody beats you to the trademark office and gets there first, guess what? They've got a leg up on you. Now, there's certain things we can try to do. Sean says, hey, how do we protect our business? Maybe we can work a coexistence agreement out with them so that you can file for a federal mark. That depends on how willing they are to negotiate. Depends on if you're willing to pay them. Some groups are very amenable to it. They're just like, yeah, give me $500 and go. Some groups are like, hey, I'm going to make you pay for this. So we definitely want you guys to be very aware. Excuse me, guys, got a hiccup. I want y'all to be very aware that there are ways to protect it, but first to file is a heck of a good strategy. Mandira asks, would like to know approximately what an attorney will charge to assist a small business. Yeah, sure thing, Mandira. For you guys, I charge $9.75 for my fee. The $3.50 fee is a government fee. I can't change that no matter how much I want. If you file more marks, I will lower that fee for the other marks. So what I do is, and this is me personally, I try to make it easy on a small business because you guys don't pay what's called the full freight charge. I know you're a small business. I know you're out there and you've got overhead and expectations. But what I do want you to know is you're getting a fully functional attorney. If you're calling me and says, hey, man, we've got a problem. I need to go after a cease and desist. I can help you with that. I will keep you on my docket at 4.5 years. Mandira, I'm going to ping you about, hey, Mandira, your mark's coming up for renewal in 6 months. Are we still using it? If so, please send me an example. Because remember, guys, when you file that trademark, it's not done. Trademarks can last forever. Now, if anybody's been on a presentation with me before, you cannot answer this question. But I want you guys to tell me what is the world's oldest trademark and give me a guess on how old it is. If you've been on one of Charles or Melissa's presentations before and heard this, don't spoil the game. But if you haven't, give me a guess on what the world's oldest trademark is and how old it is. I'll wait on you guys to respond and I'll keep going through the questions. Cleasel Farmer writes, I know that costs can vary from one attorney to another, but what would be a fair cost for trademark? Like I said, Cleasel, I'm a 975. If you file more at the same time with me, I'll give you a volume discount on it. Attorneys vary. You'll see these online places like $50 for a trademark. Be very careful of them because it's going to end up being a subscription service. There's going to be these hidden costs. They may just turn you loose when you get an office action, and that's something terrible. Y'all would be shocked at how many trademarks are denied because somebody gets back what is a very simple office action, but they don't have somebody helping them to navigate it. Because Kia said, hey, why should I use an attorney? If you get back an office action, guys, that says, hey, your mark's descriptive and you need to go to the supplemental register, does anybody on here know what that means? How do you do that? What do you do? Oh, the guesses are coming in. Mandira, my dear, you guessed the exact type of product is. Can you give me a guess? Oh, and Bass L, look at her going specific. The Bible, I hear you on that one, Sean, but the Bible's not trademarked, even though it is a great old book. Granted, the Bible stretches back about 2,000 years. It's actually older than the first trademark. Tay, it is not Ford. That's a great one too, though. It's 100 plus and change. Mandira came back and guessed Bass L Triangle. So Mandira is in the beer industry, and it is a beer mark. Can you all have a guess on how old that mark is? And any guess is welcome. And so I'm going to go back up. So Cleasel, negotiate your prices too, guys. One thing that I wanted to do with Charles and Melissa at some point in the future is we're going to teach y'all how to negotiate. I know I'm a fast-talking Southerner, wearing my tie, got my little clip in. I want all of you guys to be very comfortable talking to people because I literally make friends in the elevator. I'm just a big old open book, but I want y'all to be that way for negotiations. And so when you talk to an attorney, ask, is there a small business price? Ask, hey, do I get a volume discount? If they tell you no, pound sand, go somewhere else. Guess what? Pound sand, go somewhere else. You don't want to be dealing with that attorney. Tay, he says, this may be a little off topic, but if you trademark your company name and someone else has the name as their social media handle, can you use your trademark to make them change their social media handle for you to use it in business? That is a great question, Tay, and I want to see how they're using it. Because if your business is, I don't know, Starfish Diner, and somebody pulled up Starfish Diner as their media handle, and they're out there reviewing restaurants, then yeah, you're going to want to stalk these guys instantly. But if it's a 6-year-old girl who's posting pictures of ponies she painted, maybe we don't go in quite so aggressive on that one. But absolutely, Tay, if you see somebody using a social media handle that is too close to your name, and Lord forbid it's in a similar area to you or discusses the area you're in, you do want to put a stop in that one. We got some good guesses here. Cleasel guessed 200 years, and then Anwar guessed 1500s. See, 1500s is the time. Still, you guys are making me do more math today. That is a really good guess, Anwar. But I will spoil the surprise for y'all. It's Stella Artois beer. It's 600 and I'm having a Tuesday, guys, and I can't remember if it's 74 or 47 years old, but it is nearly 700 years old. And y'all, there's some poor attorney, and he or she has the ultimate task of don't let this mark go abandoned. Whatever you do today on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, never let this mark go abandoned. Can you imagine having that job for a trademark that's nearly 700 years old? But guys, that's what we're talking about. That's why you want an attorney to always be there because, guys, I've got trademarks I filed for people that are 20 years old, and I'm still pinging them. And it's still going, hey, guys, coming up on that another decade renewal. Are we using the mark? Send me a specimen if we are. And if you're not, you can cease. Nothing maintains that you have to do it forever. Your business might change. You might sell the business. Somebody else might take it over. You might merge with somebody. So there's no forcing your hand to maintain these trademarks forever. That's not going to happen. But y'all, these are beautiful questions. Keep asking them. Now, I'll backtrack a little bit because we went back into our definitions of trade secrets to answer them. But let's go and talk about our strategies for a second. What do we want to do? We did a search. We did Hamburger Heaven. Monitoring enforcement. Tay says, hey, I don't want you using it on the social media handle. I agree 100%. Portfolio management. If you've got multiple marks, remember that. Use an attorney with a docket so that they will keep your marks in play and will be able to inform you, hey, we've got a renewal coming up. Hey, we got an office action, need to handle this. How do you integrate this with your broader IP strategy, like your patents and your trade secrets? Guess what? The trademark's your town crier. It's the one that's out there telling everybody, come to this business. They're great. Because what does a trademark really mean? It means a source identifier. You know, I've used Coke a lot today, but who on our call today has not had a Coke? We all know what the bottle looks like. We know what color Coca-Cola is, and we know what it tastes like. And that is a trademark because we understand when we see that white script that says Coca-Cola on a red background, caramel colored fluid, sweet, fizzy. We all know that. All of us right now are having a very similar experience thinking about what a Coke tastes like. That is where a trademark really gets bang for its buck because we know that if you see a McDonald's Golden Arches and you see a Hardee's, I'm trying to think of what Hardee's mark is. I think it's just the word Hardee's. They don't taste like, their French fries don't taste like. If you see a Chick-fil-A, you know that they've got some really good chicken nuggets, but they're much different than a McNugget from McDonald's. So guys, that's how these trademarks help us. We identify the source. We associate a good and a type of good and a level of that good with a particular source. Chick-fil-A nuggets taste like Chick-fil-A nuggets. They don't taste like other people's nuggets. An Arby's roast beef sandwich, and y'all must be getting close to lunchtime because looking at all my food examples, but an Arby's roast beef sandwich tastes like an Arby's roast beef sandwich. Doesn't taste like a Hardee's roast beef sandwich. So remember, that's what our trademarks do is they signify to the population, to the consumer, this product originates with this source. The McNugget comes from McDonald's. You know, the Chick-fil-A chicken nugget comes from Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A sauce comes from Chick-fil-A. You don't get that at Hardee's. Laquan's got another question. Oh, man. Laquan, this is great. You'll probably think Laquan is a seed planted in the audience to ask great questions. She is not, and this is an awesome question. Laquan says, what if a company uses AI to help create a logo? Can you trademark it? Laquan, that is $1 million question. I'm very thankful you asked it. So let's say you're using an AI to generate a logo. You guys are going to have to do some homework because there are a ton of AIs out there. I can't sit here and tell you Gronk says yes, CPT says no, 365 says yes. You're going to have to look at the user agreement you signed and see what happens to the materials you create. Because there may be some that are like, hey, you own it. I'm an AI and I'm sitting here and I'm going to help you design a logo and you do what you wish. There might be one that just says, hey, I'll design whatever you want me to, but I have no ownership interest and I don't know what you can or cannot do with it. So what you don't want to have happen is a situation to where you think you're okay. Or worse yet, use like a clip art or something that an AI drew from like a memory bank and provided you, let's say you said, hey, I want a phoenix. Because I had an example of a phoenix way back. I had a new client give me a new business card. I looked at it. It's pretty cool looking. Little phoenix rose up, big old feathered wing behind it. Very nice looking thing. Flames at the bottom of it. I was at a party, I kid you not, 2 weeks later and got the identical logo, but from a different person for a different company. They were both using clip art as their logos. And I had to go back to my guy and I was like, look, friend, you've got to be very careful because here's another company. Because I had his card and the person's card. And we met for lunch and I held them together and said, do you see the problem? And he was like, I thought that was mine. And it was not his. It was clip art that everybody could use. So when you're using these AI, guys and gals, I want you to be very careful. Are you allowed to own it? At the end of the day, do you own it? Now, Mr. Chan mentioned earlier that he had a logo. This is something I want all of y'all to be aware of. For a logo, if you're having a third party design it, and I'm not saying that, Megan, you didn't design it yourself, or Patrick, you didn't design it yourself, or Manwar, you didn't design it, or Chantel, you didn't design it, or Angelita, or Laquan, or Gemma, or Helen, somebody else did it for you. And it's not in your company, it's a third party. So if they're not in your company, we need what is called a copyright assignment. Now notice I used another form of IP. But when we go to these third party artists and we say, hey, design me a logo, a copyright arises. And we'll play a quick little game. Everybody hold up your phone. You'll see here's a picture of my son Jackson in his suit. And so just take your phone, point it out your window, one click. All you got to do. All of you created a copyright by doing that. And guess what? An artist drawing your logo created copyright by doing that. So I need to make certain that your companies, whether it might be Patrick's or Laquan's or Shanae's or whomever's company it might be, I need to make certain that your company owns it. So we need to get a copyright assignment from whoever created that logo. And if you're using AI, that assignment should be in the terms of use saying, hey, if you created here, you can use it. You own it. If you don't see that, then you're going to have to contact the company and be like, hey, I use this to help create something. What could happen? Do I own this? And you need to have those answers. Laquan has more questions. She says, I am not, can you trademark? I am not, or do that again. I am not a real person. Do that again. That's funny, Laquan. This might be a discussion with somebody else that popped up on your feed. We talked about the AI logo. You can, if you own it, you absolutely can trademark it. Not a problem. But we want to make certain that if you use it, you've read and understand what you can do with it. Because one thing I do to play with AI all the time, and Charles and I just presented on this last week, I had a chat GPT question to it. And I said, hey, um, show me a picture of Cthulhu, the old H.P. Lovecraft entity, the great evil from out in space, ordering a New York pizza. And it showed Cthulhu in clothes, which, we didn't say put him in clothes, but it did it. And he's talking on an old rotary dial phone, which for a lot of our audience today, you may have no idea what that is. And then there was a person sitting there holding a pizza. And in the window, it just said New York over like a 1920s landscape. And that was that AI doing all of this from the single prompt of show me Cthulhu ordering a pizza. And the reason I do those little weird things is let's see how esoteric the AI's knowledge is. Then let's see how it fits that knowledge into the request. And so y'all be very careful that with your logos. You want to make certain you own it. But here's a big trick. Make certain that it doesn't incorporate somebody else's materials into that logo. Where does that AI generate the image from? Is it from whole cloth? Did you prompt it and say, hey, because here's a way to argue that you have an ownership stake in it. If you had 20 prompts saying, hey, I want a pretty girl walking out of the ocean. Well, I want a pretty blonde girl walking out of the ocean. No, scratch that. I want a pretty African-American girl with braids walking out of the ocean. And I want her holding a basket. And you're like, and I want seashells. And I want the sun coming up over the horizon. And I want a flock of birds flying behind me. The more those prompts go into that logo, the more that you can say, hey, this is an original creation. I created it. You're still going to make certain that if you use it on that AI, that you can own it a full right. So you absolutely want to make certain of that. But if you just tell me, hey, AI, create me a company logo for a restaurant, and it slaps one up, there you go. And I'll tell you what, let's play a little game. I'm going to gently move toward the stop sharing button, and I'm not going to end the event. So I'll stop sharing, and what we're going to do is pull up a Teams entry here. And I'm going to pull up Teams, and I am going to go to Copilot. And this is our internal one at Maynard. So it's a safe, captive one, and we can use it. But I am going to ask it that question. I'm going to say, create me a logo for a restaurant. I'm not going to prompt anything. Let's just see what it does. And y'all should be seeing, and I luckily did not end the event, but y'all should be seeing a prompt saying, what can I help with? Let's just ask it and see what it does. We're going to be very general. Create a logo for a restaurant. And y'all, that's all I'm going to tell it. Boom. I just put it out there. Here it goes. And we have turned Copilot loose with very open-ended instructions. And am I going to have an ownership interest in this? Am I going to be able to say, hey, this is Doug's logo? We're asking the right questions. And right now, a lot of this is unsettled. And you'll notice we got that little gray fog as Copilot's sitting there thinking about it. But at the end of the day, am I going to own this? It's the firm software, and I'm doing it on there. Does the firm own it? And y'all watch this. It is creating something. And, we did not give it any instructions. We just said a restaurant. I want a logo. And so, y'all, we're sort of watching AI truly in motion at this point. Here we go. It has given us a plate. I think it's a plate. We'll see what it finishes with. It is a plate with a fork, a knife, and a spoon. And it says restaurant. So this harkens back to our trademark examples, because guess what? We can never ever get the name restaurant trademarked because it's generic. We all know a restaurant, someplace you go to eat. We've got a restaurant at the bottom of our building. There's a restaurant across the street. All of us have been to a restaurant. So the AI said, hey, here is a logo for a restaurant. And I want y'all to understand how beautiful this is, because we can't use this. Even though it may say, hey, Helen, this is your logo. You run with it. Helen, if you file this, it is going to just trigger some poor examiner. Heather Crook, if you file this, you're going to have an examiner. And Shalonda, this examiner is going to want to hunt you down. You're going to trigger the Craven the Hunter instinct in this examiner, because you literally have a fork, a knife, and a spoon on a plate. I don't know how many trademarks have variations on that, but I promise you it's more than 4. And the word restaurant in it. Restaurant's generic. We cannot get it. So if you're using these chat GPTs and you're using these AIs, be very careful, because it provided exactly what I asked. Create a logo for a restaurant. And by gosh, here it is. Now, if we finesse it a little bit more and say, hey, create a logo for a restaurant named this, let's see what it does. Create a logo for a restaurant, and we'll give it a little more detail in here. I'd just go with Hamburger Heaven again, and let's see what it pops up here. Notice we gave it hamburger and heaven. So I bet we're going to see angels and hamburger, but we have no idea because this little AI monstrosity is doing its own thing right now. But notice how we've got this working for us. Notice how we've given it a little more of a detailed prompt, and we're not going to get back plate with fork, knife, spoon in a restaurant below it. We're going to get back something else. So I want y'all to understand with this AI situation, it is very real that, hey, you may be creating it. And the more of these prompts you give, the more there is to it, kind of like your artist. And so I want you guys to understand going full in on this, that these logos, these town criers, pay attention to them. If you're going to use AI to do it, make certain you do it right. Because if we try to follow that a restaurant logo, we're going to get yelled at. We're going to get hit with a generic mark, probably for both the image and the words. That would be kind of a neat one to follow just to see how mad it gets at us. All right, here we go. So notice this thing is stuck on circles for some reason today because it looks like it's going to show us a hamburger on a plate. I think I see the top of a bun with sesame seeds on it. But again, we gave it a few more prompts, and I want y'all to know if you're using these for it, if you're using it for anything else. Tay asks a good question. He says, if a font is copywritten, can you use that font to create your logo? The answer is no, Tay, and that is a beautiful question. So y'all remember our particular fonts, like Times New Roman, you've seen that all the time. Century Gothic, you see that a lot. What's it called? It's not Adobe. It's the one that pops up almost as a default in a lot of documents. But Tay says, hey, if a font's copywritten, can I use that to create my logo? You cannot, Tay. I've actually had people get in trouble for that before. You want to make certain that if you're using words in your logo, that you either created your own special font or you're using one of the very generic ones out there. Now here comes our Hamburger Heaven logo, guys. So we do have a hamburger on a circular background. I suspect it's just going to say Hamburger Heaven below it, but we'll see. But notice it has taken it much longer to come up than restaurant because I think in the internals of this AI, it's debating on how much is hamburger, how much is heaven, where's my restaurant, what's going on, et cetera, et cetera. Here we go. Hamburger Heaven. And so we saw that these marks were dead. Could we file for this one and possibly get it? Sure. Do we own it? That's a better question. We'd want to dig back through the Copilot and ignore that I'm a law firm and it's their software. We've got to be thinking of this just as, hey, we did it yourself. Okay, Halima writes, oh, wait, sorry. Megan Miller wrote one first. They're all popping up. That's awesome, guys. Thank you. Megan Miller, can you trademark your hex codes and when would it be useful to do so? Megan, I'm going to show my dumbness. What is a hex code, my dear? Provide me an example of it. I can give you a better answer, or I can go Google it too, but explain to me what a hex code is. I'm going to jump down to Halima while Megan is working on hers. Halima says, thank you for this important information. If my goal is to trademark my podcast name, does my trademark name protect my content? Oh, great one. Also, when adding additional trade classes, will I need to separate products or various items classed together? Great one again. Example, selling t-shirts and coffee mugs on my podcast. Will I need 3 classes? All right, Halima, beautiful question. Yes, I'll answer them backwards. If you have a podcast and it's a podcast, you're selling shirts and coffee using that same trademark, it will be for 3 classes. You will have podcasts or electronic communications, you will have coffee, and you will have clothing. So there will be 3 different classes for it. You don't have to separate them out. You can follow it all in one application just to get it out there and get it moving. Now, your content on your podcast, that is beautiful. Your trademarks, your town crier. It does not actually protect the messages below it. Tay had asked about copyright. That's what protects your podcast, whether if it happens to be just a dialogue, you can get a transcript of a recording. It can be that. It can be the recording itself. It can just be the visual from the recording. It can be the audio from the recording. All of those are copyright. That's what we want you to protect. Now, copyright arises instantly. The reason we register copyright is, you've had that, Halima, you've had that podcast and you're like, I've nailed it. Best podcast ever. Interview went great, and I don't want anybody touching this. That one we will file a copyright registration for because this is your eureka. You split the atom with the podcast and you said, hey, I love this. This is great for me. I have done an awesome job. Said, I don't want anybody to get close to this. And this may be the same if you're a painter, if you're a photographer, if you're an artist. You know, you'll step back from the canvas or you'll take that picture and be like, this is beautiful. I don't want somebody copying this. I want to file copyright registration on it. So you absolutely will use copyright to protect the content of your podcast, even though there's a trademark on the name. Now, Daryl S. Presley asks, hopefully you can see my name now. Thank you, Daryl. Daryl was my unknown. And thank you again, Daryl, for doing that, because it really does help out Metro and helps out the SBDC. It's an awesome thing. And thank you so much for doing that, Daryl. Hopefully you can see my name now. To expand on my initial question, for example, I have a trade secret on how bakeries can make cookies faster. That's awesome. Don't tell me anymore, Daryl. And I want to trademark the name of the process, a logo of the process, a tagline of the process, and the process itself. I filed an initial trademark and the process and its name. What else I need to do to protect everything? There you go. That's great. For the trade secrets itself, Daryl, remember, you can have it written down, but I want it written down someplace safe and locked up. And I don't want it written down to where your kids or your girlfriend or your mother-in-law or somebody else can get a hold of it. I want this thing protected, because there is no, you've got to pay for trade secret protection. You just need to keep it secret, keep it hidden, keep it out of reach. We don't want that thing laying on the coffee table. For your trademarks, it sounds like you've got a good beginning on those. You will want to pay attention, because remember, guys, when you file a trademark, that's not it. You're going to have a dialogue with an examiner. Sometimes they go straight through. You know, you filed it, you got your specimen right, things flow straight through and it registers. But then this is where it gets really easy to forget about it and lose it. If it goes straight through and you're just told, hey, your mark registered, you're like, I'm done. Well, you're done for 5 years. And then you got to renew it. Then you've got to follow that Section 815 to make certain that you can fend off anybody who tries to claim they own that trademark. So I want y'all to be, I'll stop showing y'all the hamburger heaven logo, but I want y'all to be very aware of what we're looking at here. You know, when we're in these situations with this IP, you know, you've got to be very, very careful with it. You know, now Daryl's like, hey, I'll get a trademark filed. Daryl has to be cognizant. Daryl's got to be like, hey, I need to know that if I get a communication from the SPTO, it's going to have a time limit. And if I don't respond to that time limit, I lose my trademark. Not only do I lose my trademark, I've lost the money that I paid to file it, because they don't refund it. You don't get it back. And like he asked earlier, you know, why use an attorney? Because, guys, let's say that you go in and you filed for, and I've seen this before, you file for all these specific types of clothing, and you're going to have tuxedos, and you're going to have wife beaters, and you're going to have overalls, and they're weird types of clothing, but you make them all. But you file for those specifically. And then you decide, nope, said, daggone it, I make dresses. That's all I make from now on, dresses. I don't do tuxedos. I don't do overalls. I don't do wife beaters. I am just dresses from now on. Guess what? You filed your trademark too specifically. And now, is it going to cover your dresses? Because it's not like any of those other products. And y'all, that's something that you want your attorneys to know. That's something you want your trademark attorney to be able to navigate with you is, hey, let's file as broad as we can on this. You know, because guess what? We want there to be room in your vertical to grow. We don't just want to say, hey, I file for coveralls. Because no matter if coveralls is your only single product, there's a real good chance that you're going to have accoutrements that go with those coveralls, and they're going to be clothing based. So you don't want to be overly narrow. You see that a lot in applications. I love it. All right. So, Daryl, I'm going back here. What else do I need to do? Protect everything. Trademarks, shush. Pay attention to the trademark office and do not forget to respond to any of their office actions. Now, Megan comes up and says, hey, there's a 6-digit code for colors. Tell y'all a little secret. Unless you're John Deere Green, why file a color mark? Because guess what? You have to maintain those colors. They've got to be your exact colors, and they cannot change. That's their hex code. So you trademark your hex codes. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Megan. Yes. So your color coding, you absolutely can claim color. Megan, I would caution you against it, though. And you're like, well, we've got the hex codes. They'll go right here. Here they go. Now, if you create a unique color, here we go, girlfriend. If you've got a unique hex code and we can specify it out and we get the hex allowed for it, then can you file a trademark in that? You surely can if you're using it like a trademark. I think on Jimmy Choo's, the shoes with the red bottom. They are known because of their color. So you may have a product that has your called green. Green's my favorite color, so I'm running with it. But you may have a shade of green on a product, and boom, you're going to file a color code, your hex code for that particular shade. Or for Jimmy Choo, you just file it for that, I guess, cherry red. I'm not exactly how to describe colors, but you've got that protected. But I would caution you guys, if it's just your run-of-the-mill trademark, I don't know that I would file a color claim because you've got a lot of freedom with a trademark to where you can change it for Valentine's Day. We got February 14th right here, man. It's coming up. You can have it, everything's red, and it can be pink, and there can be hearts, and there can be all kinds of cool stuff on it. But if you claim, hey, my trademark's only this, what if you negotiate away from it? What if a marketer comes in and says, hey, you've got, I don't know, pea soup green on your logo, and nobody likes that. Nobody likes it. Makes them think of bad stuff. And you're like, all right, I'm going to change it. But if you file that original trademark with color claim, guys, you can be in trouble because the PTO is going to be like, hey, you filed it. It's your mark. You told me what you wanted on it, so I gave it to you. So I need y'all to be very, very careful with that. I had an SBDC client the other day, sent me a trademark that a client had filed and said, hey, does this look okay? Looked good, except they did file for color. And, they weren't bad colors, a very pretty logo. But I'm like, you know what, though? Is that your permanent forever logo? Like your design is locked in, but your colors might shift. Like I was at Burn Foreman and they switched from sort of a navy blue on their business cards, or wait a minute, let me get this right. They switched from an orange on their business cards to a blue. And those are big shifts, and it changes the color spectrum massively. The hex codes are nothing alike. And so I want y'all to be very aware of that. If, hey, I am going to go and knock these things out, I'm going to go file my trademark, there's more hidden, put it this way, there's more peril than there is benefit from it. And you've got to be responsible for that timing further on because y'all, the one thing, I just changed firms. And so the biggest headache I've got right now is making certain my docket's accurate, making certain that all of my clients' dates are on here. And y'all have got to do that for your trademarks. If you file it, Daryl said he's got one pending at the PTO. That obligation's on you. If you hire an attorney, we have it on a docket. We ping you. We're like, hey, here's an office action. We got 90 days to respond. How would you like me to handle this? Let's have a call. If it's just you, it's just you. Okay, so Laquan says, do you need to trademark the actual name and the logo? Great question, Laquan. I always tell a small business, if they're debating on what to trademark, go with your words. And I know it sounds like you're talking to a toddler, but go with your words. Say, hey, if we're Hamburger Heaven, and we're like, yeah, we don't know if we're going to use that plate hamburger logo. We'll just file for Hamburger Heaven. Now, we would do the search. We saw those dead marks that were out there. The only thing about there being dead marks, and I'll caution you on this, you do want to do a quick Google search to see, are these businesses still out there? Because a dead trademark doesn't mean they're not in business, just means they didn't keep their trademarks up. And so I think it was Tay that asked the question of what happens if we have one of the Southwest marks go abandoned. Other people can get it. We were looking at Hamburger Heaven. There we were. If we were to follow that little logo that we created from the AI, and assuming we own it and all that, then what we would do is we will have a great situation to where we can own this mark, but we might have a terrible situation to where there's an existing Hamburger Heaven chain of restaurants, and therefore whoever the corporate person was forgot to renew it. So be very careful with that when you see a bunch of dead marks. That does not mean, hey, Katie barred the door, we're off the trademark race. Research it. Make certain there's not a Heavenly Burger chain that might not like you being Heaven Burger. They're not identical, but trademarks, just like horseshoes and hand grenades, close counts a lot. So Laquan, back on that one, if you're ever hesitating with protecting that logo, protect your name. Get your words locked in first. Tay says, you mentioned copywriting photos. If someone is a photographer, would they need to copyright every single photo to protect them? Or is there some type of blanket protection they can use? Great question, Tay. Remember, when we clicked with our phone, we created the copyright. So, Tay, if you're a photographer and you take those photos, you've got a common law interest in them right now. You do have a copyright ownership to that. You'd want to be able to say, hey, you document where the picture came from. I was at the Smith wedding and these were taken over approximately, February 3rd at 5 p.m. or whenever the wedding was. And make certain that you can document them. Make certain that you can show that you were there. These are yours. You're going to want that homework done. Your blanket protection is going to be general copyright protection. Now, remember, though, if you have a Eureka, you just took the most beautiful bride picture ever made, and you're like, my gosh, I want this. Make certain that your agreement with the people you're taking photographs of is that you, the photographer, still own it. Because you'll notice when you go back to the wedding photographer, that's why you have to keep paying them for new photos. They own the copyright. They didn't necessarily register anything, but they own it. They're the photographer. And so if you take that beautiful picture, that 1 in a billion picture, and you're like, I want to protect this, that's when you file your copyright registration on it. You do not have to file for everything. You would not want to file for everything, but you will want to file on the ones that you think will make you money or will gain you fame and accolades. Sean says, when it comes to a business name, do you need to trademark all aspects of what the business name is called? For example, Heinz and Moritz or H&M, or does doing business name as cover this in its entirety? Great question, Sean. So Sean says, hey, I may have a Heinz and Moritz a company, and it might go as H&M, or I might be DBA H&M. So it's really going to depend on which one of the customers face, because if your Heinz and Moritz is just in the back room, and that's just kind of your corporate name, and your customers know that, but they all know H&M because, hey, those are some of the best gloves you'll ever buy, then that's what you'll trademark. H&M. Even though you might stem from Heinz and Moritz, unless that's part of your trademarking scheme, unless that's part of your consumer vision that they see, then there you go. Because notice the Coca-Cola trademark is Coca-Cola. It's not Coca-Cola Industries, Atlanta, Georgia. There's aspects to it that just aren't needed. You don't want to clutter your mark with that, but also you do want to protect what the customers see. What is it they touch and feel? That's what you protect. That's a great question. Or your DBA name, and again, Sean, if that DBA name is how your customers know you, you might be Heinz and Moritz doing business as Heaven Burger. Guess what? Heaven Burger is what you protect. Heinz and Moritz is just the corporation that owns it. So you have to figure out what's my town crier? What are the consumers seeing and hearing and smelling, or whatever form of protection we have? And you can't trademark smells, by the way, guys. If you walk into a Verizon store and take a big sniff, none of us can have a electronics store that smells like that. They've trademarked that smell. Sounds crazy, but they think it increases sales, causes you to linger, causes you to like the product. Just remember, you can trademark some really wild stuff. Jumping down next. We copied Tay. Next down, Sean had another one. Secondary question. If your business is a long name, can you use the abbreviation without following a DBA, i.e. Alpha, Beta, Gamma, LLC, ABC? It depends on the rules for that, but yeah, DBAs are pretty open as far as that goes, Sean. And if you want to take Alpha, Beta, Gamma and just be the ABC company, there you are. Now, I will warn you with something, because watch what happens when we do, and I know this is an example, Sean, it's not your real mark, but let's look what happens when we put ABC into a search, because I want you guys to understand there has to be some originality to this. We can't just be, restaurant. That's going to be generic. We're not going to get it. But let's go with, and notice I'm slowly approaching that share key. You guys, I hope, are now looking at the trademark search office again. Let's put in ABC, and notice, you guys, for the coders, we can just use the word mark. We can just put in ABC. I use the CM just to keep my mind straight on what I'm searching for, but we're telling I want the word mark ABC. Hold on to your pants, folks. We just pulled up 2,000 hits. Now notice we've got dead and alive. Here's an old ABC with a hat on that they got rid of. Right here's an ABC for technical consultation services, and then we've got a slew of dead marks. And so what I want you to understand is, just because you can, kind of like Jurassic Park, just because you can doesn't mean you should. ABC is going to be cluttered. Now let's say, hey, and I'm going to go back and make the search a little bigger. Let's go back and look at, say, hey, I want ABC to use the clothing. And now, y'all, it's getting esoteric, because our class, it would help if I actually took it off this. So what we're going to say is, hey, I want to see, sorry, gang. ABC. Oh, I'm sorry. It's going to make me redo it. Hold on. Sometimes the trademark office is a little finicky, and it's been finicky right now. So notice it would not get off of word mark. So be careful what you're searching for, because if you do it wrong, it may come up and say no results found. you want to make certain that, that's another reason key to use an attorney is, hey, guess what? Believe it or not, we can navigate this little crazy thing. Except when I'm doing it in front of y'all and embarrassing myself, because welcome to the planet. History must be, hold on. I wanted to do an advanced search for me, and it's being a booger, but that's okay. So let's do it its hard way. It says, I want it to be ABC. We're just going to type in close. Let's see if this is what it wants from us. Boom. So notice here, that search was no good because I searched it thinking, hey, this is what I want. Now it's popped back up my general search bar. So let's do this. Because 25 is the class for clothing on it. And for some reason, y'all, it is being wonky. It was weird yesterday when I was on it. So again, it does help when the trademark office works with you on this, but we can do these various searches. Like y'all can see from mine, I'll go through and search numbers or serial numbers or trademark names, etc. There are a lot of different things that we can search, but for some reason it's being wonky. So I'm going to stop sharing very slowly. And then I'm just going to kill that screen for the moment. So trademark office needs a little time out. But what I want you to do is to remember that even though you might file for an ABC, you need to make certain it's clear. Are there ABCs that use clothing? Are they ABCs if you're a car lot that use cars? I want you to be very careful with that. Daryl's got another one. The attorney I mentioned said it would take tens of thousands to file a trademark on everything I mentioned across several sectors. Logo, words, tagline process. And copyright everything across several sectors, logos, words, taglines process. Was what he mentioned his fees for filing trademarks and copyrights or the filing fees to the USPTO? Could be both, Daryl. Let's say that you've got a mark, hold still. I'm going to pull out the calculator on the phone because I don't want to embarrass myself with bad math. But let's say that, Daryl, you've got a mark for, I don't know, Heaven Burger. But you're doing everything, man. You're like the Walmart. You're a Heaven Burger Walmart type situation. You're going to file for 20 different classes. And y'all, there are a lot of different classes. They go up to the 40s. Okay, let's do this. You're filed for everything, Daryl. You said, I want all the way up to class 44. I am in everything. My fingers are everywhere. I'm a business hydra. I have tentacles everywhere. So 44 times 350 equals $15,400. So it could have been that. Now there will be a fee on top of that. The more complex you make it, the more things that have to be gathered. Your attorney may say, hey, if you're filing for all 44 classes, your flat fee is going to be a lot higher. This is going to have to be done hourly because it's going to take me a long time to put it together. So the fees alone could be that amount, or it could have been fees plus his fee. Don't know. Okay, Mandira asks, can she light on trade dress? Can't she like? Mandira, the text is getting me, hun. Can she delight on trade dress? Shed light. Thank you, Mandira. Thank you so much. It had a space and it looked like she delight. And I'm like, sounds awesome. I don't know what it is. So trade dress. Beautiful. All right, y'all watch this. We're going back to the trademark office. They betrayed me once, but I trust them again. And so I'm going back up to my share button ever so slowly. And guys, here's where we're at. And I'm going to show you all an example of trade dress. Now, this company, I don't want a word mark. I want a general search. And I'm going to do this for the owner of it. And this is one that's in an industry I work in a lot. I did a search for Glock pistol. And what I want to do, and the Glock's the owner, and I'm going to say, hey, I just want to see the living ones because I want to show y'all something. So now we're down to all these Glock marks. Guess what this is, Miranda? This is trade dress on a Glock pistol. Now, Miranda, you may not be a shooter, and that's perfectly fine, but that's a Glock pistol. And any of our shooters here on the screen with us can tell you that's a Glock pistol. They filed a trade dress on it. And notice they renewed it, obviously. But one reason, guys, that you can do this is that if you have a particular design to a product, in this case, a pistol, look at Coca-Cola. Let's see if I think it's Coca-Cola. I'm trying to remember what their owner company name's called. Let's see if this pulls it up. Boom. You'll notice that Coke's got all kinds of marks. Let's do the live ones just so we can cut out all the detritus. But y'all, you can file for trade dress. And what it is, it's the shape of a product, the appearance of a product. And the reason you can do that is, hey, I don't want somebody doing it. Now notice it can be the shape of a logo and words. Completely fine. And it can be Sprite, but look right here, guys. They filed one on an opening for a juice bottle. And that is trade dress. And just like that Glock pistol had a unique look, this daggone little necked cap, and you can tell the dash parts are what they're not claiming. So they're claiming essentially the base with that sort of tapered neck. That's what they're claiming as a trade dress or a trademark that's indicative of a product. Sometimes restaurants will do this and sue people over it, saying, "Hey, I've got a restaurant that's got little high stools, and we've got think Pizza Hut, that daggone slope, man. No matter if it's a bank now, no matter if it's another pizza company, because you've all saw the meme where the Domino's moved into a Pizza Hut, kept everything the same, and the meme says, "Yep, that's victory when you're literally living in the corpse of your competitors." But trade dress protects the appearance of something. It protects the way it looks. Could be Coke bottles, could be handguns, could be lamps, can be appearance of an iPhone. So anything that you have got as far as a trademark, remember the Jimmy Choos we talked about, the red soles, there can be a lot of things that go into it. Halima asks, just to clarify, we will need 2 different trademarks for the logo and the name. Are the trademark fees and class fees the same? It depends, Halima. Like if you've got a logo and it's got your words in it, and you're like, this is it, it's never changing, file 1. Now your class fee is going to differ on how many classes. If you got 1 class for clothing, that's $350. If you got a class for clothing, coffee, and I don't know, hats are in 25. If you got one for clothing, coffee, and dog treats, then those will be in 3 different classes. So it'll be $350 per, but the attorney's fee will remain just for the same on it. But the fees are the same per class, so it doesn't matter if you're a restaurant class or a clothing class, it's $350. Back to Daryl's question, if you followed one on all 44, you're looking at $15,000. So be very, very cautious. I always tell clients, hey, if you're thinking about going somewhere and you're adamant, I'm going to be there in 6 months, then let's follow in those classes. But if you're like, right now I'm a clothing store, but I might end up being a coffee grinding store, then let's hold up and see if you get there or not. Because those disparate classes, I don't mean to throw or rain on your parade or throw a wet towel on you, but I don't want you doing something that, hey, I filed for this and I shouldn't have, Doug. Cancel that. Here we go. But y'all, these attorneys are so attorneys. I just read Daryl's thing again. Y'all, these questions are so good, and I know that we've only been going through the slides kind of sporadically, but y'all are covering it and through all of this. What do we type for trade dress? That's a great one, Miranda. They don't separate it out that neatly. So if you know of a company that's got a trade dress you want to look at, that's your easiest way to find it. You can type in, there are different searches for like oak tree and leaf, just depending on what you think they're there. That's beyond today. That's more like a, hey, we're really getting into a search to do it. And these searches are very, very articulate. You can use them to help find out like, hey, I want to know trademarks that have an oak leaf and the letters ABC in it. We can do a search for that. So there are ways to look through it. Halima says less is more. I agree. If you've got a busy logo and then you hire a marketer later on, or you guys get big, and think of this example, Boston Chicken. Used to be Boston Chicken. Now it's Boston Market. Because guess what? They started off making chicken. And they're like, man, we can make all kinds of stuff. And so all of a sudden, Boston Chicken doesn't fit anymore. And we've got a Planet Comics. I'm a huge comic book nerd, guys. I'm shocked Charles didn't rat me out on that, but I'm a huge comic book nerd. Even I've got comic book cards right here on my desk. I'm that big of a dork. But we have a company called Planet Comics in our region, and they've got an Anderson store, they've got a Greenville store, and some other places. And they're starting to transcend into being not just a comic book store, but also like an action figure store and a board game store and just different things. Anima, the little bobblehead looking guys, can never remember the name of those. But that's what they're going into. And so putting the name comics in Planet might have been a mistake, because what if in 20 years, they're no longer selling comic books? Just like Boston Chicken said, hey, we now sell a lot more than chicken. So I want you guys to think on it, kind of like Helen, and it was pointed out by Halima, it was that, hey, less is more. So could we have just went with Planet and then become like an entertainment store? Possibly. But if you got Planet Comics in your name or Boston Chicken in your name, and you start selling macaroni or you start selling board games and action figures, guess what? somebody sees your name, they might not actually think, hey, Boston market, sure, that could be anything. Boston chicken, you're like, yeah, they don't make macaroni. I love good macaroni. I ain't got good macaroni because it's not in the name. Planet Comics, are you thinking, hey, they got action figures? Yeah, if you're a big dork like me, they're probably freaking frack on that, but not necessarily. And if you're a civilian and you see Planet Comics, you're not going to think, hey, I could go here and get Warhammer 40,000 board games. Not going to occur to you. And again, I'm a huge dork. Back to our questions, guys. Helen, as our note taker. What do we type? Less is more. Awesome, guys. Let's see if there are any more. No, we're caught up on our questions. And so, guys, what I want us to know from today, and we're rolling up with about 22 minutes left, plenty of time for questions, anything y'all want. I will gingerly press the share button because y'all would laugh at how many times I have inadvertently ended a phone call or a Teams meeting by clicking on end or leave, and I'm trying to share screen. But when we're going through our trademarks and our trade secrets, guys, as we've discussed today, and y'all getting a beautiful handle on it, what do we do with it? What's our global implications of it? Guess what? If you need a Mexican trademark, let me know. We can help you with that. Your regulatory and ethical changes, hey, when AI comes in, how's that going to work with things? Are you going to use it to protect yourself? Our legal compliance, be really careful with it. And compliance, I mean, hey, are my trademarks filed? Have I got them up to date? Do I know when they register? We send out what's called a portfolio. I've got a banking client over on the coast. They're awesome. Jessica Wilson's my contact, one of the greatest people we ever meet. She'll be like, Doug, send me a portfolio. Crank that sucker out. She knows every mark. She knows when her deadlines are coming up, and she knows any of these big deadlines like, hey, 5-year renewal, 10-year renewal. Because remember, if you're the Stella Artois attorney, the last thing you ever want to do is go to your boss saying, there's a problem. I happen to let Stella Artois, the nearly 700-year-old trademark, abandon. That's a bad thing. I got another question from Daryl. So to confirm on trade secrets, what can you market to generate revenue? The name of the process and the outcomes, and keep the process as the actual trade secret. Bingo, bango, Daryl. Bingo, bango. You are what I will now call a bushed baked beans entrepreneur. And Daryl's like, I'm not a cook. Don't have to be, Daryl. What you are, if anybody here remembers those old commercials, go look them up on YouTube if you haven't seen them. There were these two old guys talking about baked beans, and and saying, we've got a trade secret. We've got a secret recipe. We got a trade secret. We got a secret recipe. And the hound dog would always offer to sell them out. Hound dog was like, you pay me in bones, you pay me in money. I'm going to tell you this trade secret. Here's the trick, Daryl, and this is how this works both ways. There was no trade secret. It was freaking beans and brown sugar, like everybody makes. But they told everybody there was a trade secret. Now, Daryl, you actually have one. And you need to tell everybody that you have one, but you don't tell them what it is. Proprietary, confidential, trade secret. Make it sexy. Make it James Bond. This will be your town crier too, not just your trademark going, hey, come back to Daryl. You know what I've done. You know how I can help you. You know how I'll improve efficiency. You want it to be, hey, I've got a secret. And we all know what secrets are. It kills. It's that little human part just niggles at the back of your mind. Like, I want to know the secret. I want to know the secret. Tell me the secret. It's just back there just tweaking you, just poking you in the back of your head saying, hey, tell me the secret. And so that, Daryl, is a beautiful thing. But remember these cautionary points, my friend. Don't ever tell the actual secret. Don't ever put that freaking thing in an AI. Just don't do it. I don't want that to happen for any of y'all. And if you're out talking to somebody, don't start, hey, elbow, good buddy, let me tell you my secret. No, because your good buddy might be like, dang, Daryl, that's a great secret. I think I see how to use that in my company. Don't do it, guys. No matter how much you might love or like or care about somebody, absolutely not. Back to Halima's comment, less is more. In the world of trade secrets, nothing is more. Keep it as secret as you can. Now, back to our enforcement, y'all had some great questions. And notice, guys, your questions went through all these slides. You have done such a great job of asking very questions that you've triggered me to go over everything, but you can't enforce the IP. You can send out cease and desist. I've got a lawsuit right now involving a couple companies where one company says, hey, I think your trademarks are too similar to mine. I think you're trying to make money off my hard-earned press, kind of like Daryl's out there being a town crier. Mandira asks, what can be a trade secret? Mandira, that's an awesome question. I'll give you all motion sickness and go back to the beginning here. But they can be a lot of different things. And, they can be a process. They can be an algorithm. It can be computer code. You know, it can be a lot of things. It can be a pricing list. It can be your market expansion plans. It can literally be the way that you got your machines set up in a shop, just so they process quicker and it takes less employee time to move a product from this machine to that machine. You know, there are a lot of things that can be a trade secret. And Mandira followed up with trade dress is not a secret, correct? And that is correct. Because, you know, that Glock pistol, they want everybody to see it. They don't want a Glock to be sold in a little bag and a little box and nobody ever sees it. They're like, hey, this is what our pistol looks like. And if you make one that looks like it, we're coming to get you. You know, Glock likes enforcing their trademarks. Same thing for you guys. I want y'all to, if you see somebody who's touching your stuff and they should not be, y'all need to stop them. The concept, if you don't do that, it's called naked licensing. And it's not nearly as fun as it sounds like it should be. What it means is you have nakedly licensed it with no controls, and all these little third parties are just out there using it. And after a while, they've got the ability to start using some legal terms on you, such as latches and unclean hands. Estoppel, you know, things that you do not want thrown in your face to say, hey, I didn't protect my trademark. If you see somebody using your stuff, you know, whether it's a trade secret or a trademark, you want to make certain that you're protecting it. Mandira's got another question. So a production process can be a trade secret, the material used, etc. Absolutely, Mandira, absolutely. If you've got a particular way of manipulating a cloth or a food product, and this process is unknown, and you keep it a secret, meaning that, hey, you're using NDAs, you're using, you know, when we talk about our protections, guys, a lot of those are in writing, but you would never have an NDA that would say, my trade secret is, you would have it discussed. Like, you know, Daryl's could call his, you know, you will be included in the trade secrets of this company because I need you to help me do that. But you're going to want to have a really good non-disclosure agreement. You probably want a non-compete agreement. Depending on the state that you're in, you can get sometimes more, sometimes less, sometimes none non-compete. If you're in a state that prohibits non-compete, you really want to be careful about how you expose those trade secrets to a potential employee, because you never want a situation where you give an employee all this information, you weren't doing a good job of keeping it a trade secret, then they go out and compete with you. They open up next door. We don't want that. You know, our vulnerabilities here, guys, remember that exposure kills a trade secret. Putting it in an AI and sending it loose kills a trade secret. Our security measures, guess what? We need to make certain if it's on a computer that's protected, if we're sending emails, we don't want those things to be able to be caught. Contracts. And guys, always put it in writing. I know this is an attorney saying write. This is an attorney saying sign. This is an attorney saying do it all the time, because the situations where you don't do it, those are the ones that blow up. And they're always the ones you think won't blow up. You know, I like Sean. Sean and I are friends. You know, Roland and I have known each other 20 years. We went to high school together. This will work. You know, Charles and Anwar, man, they've known each other a billion years. They don't need a contract. Those are always the ones that go south. So I do want a contract. I do want it brought out that way. Your privacy technologies and policies, guys, write them out. Let people know, hey, if you're coming to work with Sinead, you're going to be exposed to things. These include our chocolate chip formula recipe. And you don't put the formula in the policy. You just say, hey, you're going to be exposed to it. But remember that, guys, there are a lot of ways to protect these. I don't want y'all, and you're like, hey, you know, what about our worlds here? You know, what are we seeing as far as AI out in the real brick and mortar planet? You know, I've shown you all examples. You know, we've seen a Glock trade dress, you know, trademark use in AI. Hey, we just had an AI generate trademarks for us. And we could have went on and on and on with more and more prompts to get a very specific, very identical, or sorry, very identifying of your business, not identical, of a nature of it by going in deeper and deeper and deeper on all these prompts. We do want to integrate, though. I don't want you guys just thinking about trade marks without thinking about trade secrets, because I promise you guys, if you got a trade secret and you're out there dealing with consumers, you got a trademark too. And it might be like the ones Mandira's asked about. Maybe it's a particular way your store looks. Maybe it's the way your product looks. You know, maybe you sell bleach and bleach comes in a really cool looking bottle from you, or maybe it's colored very wildly. You know, those can be some great things for you to protect. But if you have a trade secret, I promise you, you've got a trademark too. And all of you have a trade secret. That's what we're leaving here with today. Everybody that's in a company right now, or even if you're just forming the company in your mind, you're thinking about what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it. What's my marketing plan? How am I going to pay for this? Those are all trade secrets. You know, where do I get funding for this? That's a huge question. You know, a lot of businesses are always like, hey, I need that initial capital influx. Heck, you might know of a great way. You may know of a good way. You may know a fantastic way to get you access to money. Are you going to go tell that to your competitor who will start competing against you? You are not. So don't think of trade secrets as just being like, oh, it's got to be the Coke recipe or something like that. It's even more basic. It's things that your competitors don't know that help you make money. And that might be, hey, you get up at 6 a.m. to go to work because it's no phone calls, no email time, and you're really productive. I know that sounds a little crazy, but guess what? That could be a trade secret. But you want to make certain you leverage these, and I love the questions from Daryl saying, hey, I've got a trade secret. I can't tell anybody what it is, but you can tell them you have one. You can do Bush's baked beans and not have one. Guys, they cornered 85% of the baked bean market by lying about having a trade secret. I think that's fantastic. Not the lying part, but the whole, hey, we didn't have a secret, and yet y'all liked our beans enough to give us 85% market share. That's outlandish. That is a good way to use and a good way to really cohesively use your AIs together. How is this AI going to help it? It's all going to go hand in hand. AI is not going to erase any of these forms of IP. They're going to work together on it. You can use AI in another way. You can use it to go look for people who are infringe on you. Look for people who are too close to your marks. Now, guys, what I'm going to do now is we're getting ready to wrap up. I'm down to my last 4 slides. And we're going to look at our top 5 benefits and top 5 boo-boos. So their benefits of protecting a trademark, we got our brand recognition, our trust. We know what a Coke tastes like. We know if we see the Coke label on it, we get it. Legal protection against infringement. If you want to be able to stop somebody, file your trademarks, get them out there. Do not be fish bold, because if someone rolls into the federal mark and you didn't protect your name, you could be fixed, and in a bad, bad way. Guys, it's a business asset. It's got value. You can go to a bank and say, hey, here is my trademark from a $100,000 company. I need a loan on this. And you know what? The daggone bank's going to be like, let's talk. We can work with you. Market differentiation. Remember when we put in the ABC and we got all those thousands and thousands of hits? You want to be unique. You do not want to be restaurant for restaurant. You want to come up with something that helps you stand out. And remember too, if you see somebody's mark that you like and you try to get close to them, that might trigger a cease and desist from them to you. Global expansion, guys. Right now you're in the US, maybe you're around the Maryland, DC, Virginia area. Maybe you're down here with me in South Carolina. Sky's the limit. You never know where your products may end up, but file them now and start building those footprints so that we can start going globally to protect them. Top 5 reasons to protect trade secrets: competitive advantage. Bush baked beans. I don't have a trade secret. I'm telling you I do, and it makes everybody interested in my beans. How hard is it to get somebody to be interested in beans? It's not that hard when you tell them you got a trade secret. Here's a scandalous hound dog going to sell it to you. Cost efficiency. Man, Daryl, I'm so glad that you talked to that attorney, because trade secrets don't cost a dime. They do have to be protected, but they don't cost you any money. So what we want to have happen is a situation to where you guys are protected, but understanding it doesn't cost money, guys. It's James Bond. It's locked doors. It's the secrets in a safe, and only you and some other person who you trust implicitly and needs access to the safe can get in. Unlimited duration. They don't expire, guys. The trade secrets, trademarks, they can go indefinitely as long as you maintain them. You don't have to maintain a trade secret. If you got a chocolate chip recipe, it's been handed down for 1,000 years, it can go 1,000 more. Risk mitigation. Guess what? Your trade secrets, if you keep it secret and if you keep it away from these AI, they're not going to be able to get to it. They're not, none of us are feeding it to the GPT. None of us are using a Grump to ask, hey, I've got a trade secret, how to make it better. We're not going to do that, because we will keep that out of the public forum. Preservation of innovation, guys. You've got the ability to have your trade secret. You don't have to pay these outlandish fees to protect it. You've got the ability to keep it secret. So I want y'all to understand that you've got a lot of things in your favor here. As a small business doesn't mean you're without power. It means the exact opposite. You just have to be educated about it, just to know, hey, where am I on this? What comes up next? Now, here are the mistakes. We talked about the good. Here, unfortunately, is the ugly. We don't conduct a thorough search. We file a trademark and oh crap, there's a name similar to it. And sometimes that happens. Y'all saw the system kind of lock up on me. There's times that will happen, and it just happens. Guess what? So goes the vagaries of electronics. Generic and descriptive names. Restaurant for restaurants isn't getting in. White milk for milk, guess what? That's descriptive and it's generic and it's not getting in. failing to register, guys. That's the biggest thing I hope y'all take home, is that we do want you to file your trademarks. I want a federal mark for you guys. If we're in a situation where we can't get a federal mark, at least look at getting a state mark. I've got some clients coming in tomorrow, and you know what? We're going to have to talk about looking at state marks because somebody filed first. We're going to have to look at different ways to protect them. Ignoring your marks, that's a terrible thing. Don't think, hey, my marks are out there and they're making money and I don't have to do anything about them. Guys, at some point your business will have a successor. It could be a kid, it could be somebody who buys you out, it could be a merger with a different company, but they're buying you because of that goodwill. They're buying you because of the products or the services you provide tied to those trademarks. So you don't want a situation where me or one of my brothers or sisters comes into a merger situation and goes, where are your trademarks? And your answer is, I didn't file any. Because you know what? We're going to turn that on you. And we're going to use that to lower the price we're going to offer for your business. And we're going to use words like uncertainty. And we're going to use words like, And so understand that you protect these early and you protect them often. Don't file for everything. File for the ones that make you money. And it's okay to transition away. But again, not monitoring use, guys. If somebody's out there using your stuff, and if say you're two vets and you're Good Animal Hospital and they're Good spelled G-U-D Animal Hospital, and all of their patients have misfortunes, that's going to reflect on you. Nobody's going to stop and think, hey, which Good hospital should I take my dog to? They'll just know to avoid anything that sounds like Good Animal Hospital. Our mistakes with trade secrets. Y'all have been trained today, so we don't have the ability for y'all to be like, I don't know what a trade secret is. Anything that makes your business money that your competitors don't know. That's a trade secret, gang. Could be showing up to work at 6 a.m., could be a secret formula. No trade secret catalog. Now, granted, the trade secret catalog preferably doesn't have the trade secrets in it. But if you're like Daryl and you've got, hey, I've got a trade secret on a process. I've got a trade secret on the way that I iron clothes. I've got a trade secret on the way that I make cookies. Catalog them. You know what they are. Your weak contracts, guys, I cannot say enough. No AI contracts. Do not do it. You can use an AI to get a draft. Take that to an attorney. Now, contracts are different than trademarks are federal. I'm in South Carolina. I can help every single person here today do a federal trademark. Not a problem. But if you tell me, hey, I need a contract in Virginia, I'm going to introduce you to a Virginia attorney, because contracts are not a federal thing. They're a state thing. They may encompass some federal details, but they are by nature state creature. So if you're in Maryland, you need a contract, holler, I can set you up with somebody. If you're in Virginia and you need a contract, holler. DC, same deal. But I'm not going to use a South Carolina contract or a South Carolina attorney in those areas. Trade secrets, patents, absolutely different. A federal law covers all those, your trademarks, your patents, your copyrights, all federal in nature. They can be handled by me or an attorney somewhere else that you choose. Your poor HR processes. Understand not everybody needs to touch the secret formula. If it just needs to be you and your head chef, so be it. That doesn't mean the sous chef gets it. It doesn't mean the waiter gets it. They don't. You keep them out of that. Unclear communication. Guys, that causes so many problems. Man, I've got teenagers. I can write a volume on unclear communication with particular response to my son. I love Jackson dearly, but I'll tell you what, there's times when I don't think he hears me. And I do mean literally he doesn't hear me. So we want to make certain that when we communicate with clients, when we communicate with partners, that we know what we're doing and it's clear. There's not going to be some sort of little misunderstanding. There's not going to be some sort of little something shut off in the dark and we didn't think about it. Y'all, we are down to 4 minutes. I know I talk really fast, so I'm going to give y'all the last 4 minutes to ask any questions about what we've covered or anything you're curious about. But y'all have been terrific today. And let me just thank all of y'all for asking those questions, because I know that you're like, hey, I don't know this guy. I probably don't know many of these people. That is awesome, guys. That is awesome. So ask away. I'm right here. It's 11:57. Halima says, how can we get in touch with you? Here you go, my dear. I will slap in. Y'all, this is my direct email and direct line. Whichever way you prefer to communicate, I'm happy to do it. If I can spell my firm's name right. That is my email. And here's my direct phone number. It comes right to my desk. I do a voicemail. Always leave a number. You'll get a hold of me. Oh, yeah, and Sean asked for time to do the survey. We never get enough time to write out a great reviews. You can ask him. Cleasel wrote, I am so glad to sign up for this. You have been a blessing. Cleasel, I'm happy, my friend. And I want you to understand, for small businesses, knowing this man, it helps a lot. And I want you to use what I'll call the Daryl strategy. I want you guys to start advocating for yourselves. Lazy dog doesn't wag its own tail. I want you guys to be tail waggers. Y'all should be like my Oreo. I get home and that tail's like a little fan going. Advertise yourselves. Put it out there. Mandira wrote, thank you so much. Very helpful webinar. I'm so glad y'all liked it. I genuinely do enjoy doing this. I was telling Charles and Melissa earlier, it's like, these are fun for me because I get to meet new people and I get to help people. And and thank you. Roland hit me with the clap emoji. Thank you. But y'all, any other questions, please feel free. Daryl just wrote in, thank you. This was incredible. Patrick wants to know how they can get a recording. Melissa and Charles can set you up with that one. Dr. Helen Holton asked the same thing. Will the recording be available? Kiana Moore writes back, yes, this was very helpful. Guys, understand, it's not me. It's the SBDC, and it's their partners, and it's it's WADA, it's everybody else who's here to help you. It's the Metro, it's the SBDC, it's the folks who help small businesses who are here with us right now in this room. Appreciate them, because if I hadn't met them, I would have never met y'all. And Sinead just slapped up the survey, so feel free to jump on that one. Marla writes back, the recording will be available in a few days. All attendees will receive a link. Dr. Holton writes back, it's been informative. Thank you, everyone. Thank all of y'all. And again, if y'all got any other questions, holler at me. Just say, hey, I'm a child of Melissa. I'm a child of Charles. You bored me to death on that trademark trade secret thing, but I've got a question. I'll be happy to talk. I would rather we inform our small businesses than we have to worry about something happening. But y'all, this has been terrific. Y'all are awesome. I'm going to relinquish the calm to either Melissa or Charles, whoever has it.
Hey, I'm gonna take over. It's Michelle. Thank you so much. Doug, let me tell you something. I'm gonna get you back here. Like, I don't care what I have to do, how long I have to wait, but yes, I'm gonna definitely get you back here, Doug, and everything, because let me tell you, the presentation is like jewels and diamonds and everything coming all together. I just want you to know we truly, truly appreciate you. For all of these small businesses online, you better go tell somebody. You better go tell somebody. We will have Doug back. We're going to work with his calendar and everything to get him back here and let him know how much we appreciate all of this excellent information that he has given us today. So again, I want to thank you to Charles and to Doug. I have to thank my team, the Small Business Programs Office Certification Outreach Business Development Team. We have Marlo and Michael and Alicia. We have Shanae and Sierra, Heather and Shalonda. I want to thank my team for always making these things happen. They work so well together in the background. And we can't do this without a team. So I want to thank them. I hope you were able to learn some important information to help your business grow, because Doug was putting it out there today. Please make sure that you check out our workshops we have on February the 12th, Metro Certification Workshop. It is another virtual workshop, and we will be having our in-house folks do that. We also have a Meet the Primes Construction Edition coming up. That'll be in March. So please look out for that. And the day before this, we also had the procurement fair. So we had to cancel because of the weather, but the procurement folks are putting it back on. They're going to put it on for March 11th, and just make sure that you guys, show up for that. Check out our websites for all of the upcoming virtual educational opportunities and things that we have. As you see, they've put up Plateau to Profit, Diversifying Revenue Streams. That's going to be on February the 17th. So we have a lot that can help you and your business. I want you guys to tune in, check the calendars. Like I said, we will make sure that we get Doug back here again and coordinate everything. So I want to say thank you. Certification is the key to participation, and we look forward to your applications coming in. Have a great rest of your day. And again, thank you all for showing up for your business. Thank you.